Things are just getting spicier and spicier as the days go by as we inch closer to Bill Guerin's first big offseason move. One former Wild player has been named in an article as a likely target, and we also have a big report from Frank Seravalli talking about what he believes Bill Guerin's plan is and how that opens a door for a certain other former Wild player who is reportedly disgruntled in his current location. We have a lot to get into. Frank Seravalli's report, the direction of the Minnesota Wild, the lines, and some very interesting potential targets, all that coming up on this episode of Wild Digest. And we're going to dive straight into it, Kirk, and we're just going to open with what Frank Seravalli had to say because this is the catalyst for a lot of what we're going to talk about today. He said in his recent show on Daily Faceoff today, June 10th, I think Bill Guerin's willing to spend a chunk of cap space on one player. And you're going to have to allow for some certain savings for Kirill Kaprizov because they're talking about Draisaitl level territory for that. So, Kirk, before we dive into this video, this is something that I think we have been bracing for. Again, this lineup could use some scoring depth, but bringing in the right player on the right contract, using a big chunk of cap on one forward, could be the move forward. And hey, again, with a trade market that's seemingly teeming with a lot of really solid forward options, this could be a great opportunity for Bill to go spend that chunk of cap space.
I mean, let's be honest. I think we've all been waiting for it after this Suter Parise contract cap hell. It's been time that the Wild can make a big signing, and I absolutely love the idea from Bill Guerin to go out here and make that big splash. Now, obviously, Kirill Kaprizov is our main focus. Yeah. We need to have him locked up as soon as possible for as much money he wants for as long as he wants. That is the main priority. But going out here to make this team better is also a very close priority to number one, as is Kirill Kaprizov, because, we know the stars on this Wild team have not been something that we've been very used to over the past few seasons. Kirill Kaprizov's been one that has flown away and really been that one that we know is going to be likely at some point, maybe even next upcoming season, the best Wild in NHL history. Yeah. But, we need to go out here and make another splash while we have this window as open as it is. Now, this team, I'm still comfortable with how young it is. I'm still okay with the age, everything like that. Of course, some players are getting older, but we want to make a big splash. Make sure Kirill Kaprizov is not the only one here on this team that we have to rely on. I think that's the main focus for Bill Guerin. I think that's what this team is acknowledging as well here, going into this offseason for the first time with enough money to make Wild fans happy.
Yeah, it's going to be extremely interesting and exciting. That's why we keep talking about this stuff every day. And Kirk, with the market being the way it is, there are so many names that are circulating constantly. And one name that has been circulating a little more recently, look, this report out of Buffalo, first of all, was a while ago, back on May 29th, but I've seen it resurface recently, especially among Wild fans, saying how at least a quarter of the Sabres roster is unhappy, including Owen Power, Alex Tuch, Matthias Samuelsson, and some other core players. Now, one name there, he's pretty familiar to us, Alex Tuch, and I saw this circulating on Wild Twitter. I saw this circulating on the Wild Reddit today. So, Kirk, we're going to talk about this a bit because, look, I don't mind this at this current cap hit. My big problem with Alex Tuch, in a vacuum, I think he fits this team pretty well. I mean, plays a different style. He's 6'4", 216. I mean, if there was ever a Bill Guerin type, this is the guy. Now, I don't want to revisit how we lost him in that first place. I'm glad, teams weren't as dumb when they were dealing with Seattle as when, teams dealt with the Vegas Golden Knights like Minnesota, like Florida, like Anaheim. Few of those teams did similar stuff. But regardless, look, Alex Tuch is a phenomenal player this year, and I've seen a lot of Wild fans suggest, why not bring him back? He would provide depth to this lineup, and at the very least, even though he's an unrestricted free agent after next year, he's on right now 1 year left at $4.75 million per year. Kirk, he's fresh off a 36-goal season. He's a 6'4" forward. He can do it all. To me, this kind of actually really fits the Wild's roster moving forward. My big concern with him, though, where I kind of start to diverge from some of the takes I've seen online, is if we want to spend big cap on one player, I don't know that Alex Tuch is the solution, because we'll have to pay him as soon as he turns 30, and then he's going to want a 7 or 8 year deal depending on where he is. And I don't think I'm ready to fork out the money for an Alex Tuch that ends up being 38 years old at the end of the contract.
Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well. Alex Tuch, phenomenal player, really good as of recent years for Minnesota Wild. The Bill Guerin style of player, eerily similar to Moose, but the issue is that age. Coming into a big spending, he's not the guy at the moment. And, if you do go out and get a guy like Alex Tuch, I won't be mad, but that's really not where I would love to allocate this money that we're freshly coming upon now. But if we do end up getting a guy like Alex Tuch, of course, right now, I think that this entire Buffalo team is a bit disgruntled. There's a lot of uncertainty there. We've been talking about JJ Peterka. We've been talking about Tage Thompson,
Hmm.
but I feel like Alex Tuch is more likely of some of those players. So maybe he wants to come back. Maybe he wants a little hometown discount. You never really know what's going on that side of it. But I feel like if we go back to that Frank Cervalli report, that it is a bit too much money to comfortably give him when he does become, as you said, a 38-year-old by the end of that contract.
Yeah, like again, he's a cool player. I totally understand, but like I don't know. To me, if we're like we said, Kirk, if we want to spend all that money on one player, there are better options out there. Again, just from Buffalo, if Thompson was ever available, which no reports that he is. Yeah, JJ Peterka, reports are that the Buffalo Sabres don't want to trade him, but they might have to trade him, right? So there's some interesting stuff there. But leave us your thoughts on Alex Tuch down below. I wouldn't mind seeing him come back, but look, even if it was just for 1 year and we paid the money for a 1-year rental, I'm not too mad about that, but I have a funny feeling it'd end up being a lot more and other teams might be willing to pay more. But another name, Kirk, that we came across I think is even more interesting here and maybe more of a realistic target. Another former Wild player, and that's Mikael Granlund. Now, the article where we saw this from Yahoo is linked down below in the description. Please go check it out. Give the author the credit they deserve. Have a look at it. Read the whole thing. There's more to it than just what we're showing. But they say one guy that could get there would be former Wild forward Mikael Granlund. There's some speculation that the Stars would want to keep him, but if he does go to free agency, should they target him? 33 years old. He's been playing a lot of wing, had a 66% faceoff percentage in 31 regular season games. Again, bit more of a winger, still sometimes center. Also had 7 goals, 21 points, 18 playoff games, 5 goals, 5 assists. He was traded there from the San Jose Sharks along with Cody Ceci there at the trade deadline, and he played great for the Sharks and the Stars. And honestly, his time in the Sharks was arguably more impressive, getting a lot of first-line time, being that go-to guy. At the time of the deadline, he was a near point-per-game player on a team that didn't have much scoring outside of himself, a little bit of Toffoli and Macklin Celebrini. Mikael Granlund's an interesting name, Kirk. The problem is, again, he's an unrestricted free agent, so if I look at him here, fresh off a $5 million per year contract over 4 years, he's another guy that would be old at the end of this contract, but I feel like you could get away with a little 3-year deal here. Now, I know Dallas, they want to bring him back. That's one of these reports. They're reportedly looking to move off of Jason Robertson, even maybe to extend Granlund, which I find insane, but they also have to get off of Matt Dumba. They got to get off of Ilya Lyubushkin. There's no guarantee that they will end up actually pulling off the moves that make sense to have Granlund signed for a few extra years. Do you see the Wild being a suitor for Mikael Granlund? I think it's maybe more realistic than Tuch, but I think he adds skill, but again, he doesn't quite add exactly what this team needs unless we give up Rossi and we really need some skilled help down the middle, and the Rossi replacement in a trade doesn't fill it.
Definitely more realistic. I feel like the only thing here, though, is that he does make this roster significantly older. I was going to say quite a bit, but, 33 years old, will be around 36, 37 by a time that a contract extension would expire. But he's shown consistently over the past few years that there really is not any sign necessarily of slowing down significantly. He's been a very good player. He hasn't faced that and taken that main forward role, which I think is a big part of why he's been so consistent at his age now. But I feel like this makes a lot of sense if you keep a guy like Marco Rossi, more so than getting rid of him. It keeps that young talent there. It gives another option to put on a line with Marco Rossi. It just gives a lot more freedom for the Wild to kind of pick and choose what they want to do on the offensive side of things. But as you mentioned as well, Dallas has a lot of different plans going on depending on what it is. And that's where it caused a lot of concern about if Mikael Granlund will be readily available here in free agency or not. And if he does, though, and, putting him into this core on the offense, I don't hate it. Even though we do have quite a few players that can play center, can play the wing, you can never have too many centers, and it's always nice to have an extra winger. So even from what he's shown from San Jose, from Dallas, to very, very different styles of team, he showed very well that he was capable of playing in both at a very high level. So I see the Minnesota Wild still being a great option for him. Bringing him back would be kind of funny to see him back with the Wild as well, where he started in his NHL career. So this is one that I'm pretty interested on. I would certainly like to see kind of how things progress here when we get towards free agency.
Yeah, like if I think of Granlund on the Wild, I can see it making sense, but in the grand scheme of things, if we are talking of we want to just sign a really, really good talent that's kind of a slam dunk for a lot more money, tying up however much it's going to take for Granlund in just Granlund and kind of lowering your effective cap space for however many years you sign him for, to me is just something that is probably not going to fly on Bill Guerin's risk reward chart. Like if you want to bring in an $8 to $10 million player sometime, maybe that's too high, whatever, 7 to 10 million, however you want to slice it. but you can't do it because you decided to sign Mikael Granlund to a 3-year contract. I feel like it does hurt the longer term vision a bit, but it makes the team better in the short term. And that's where we have to kind of like find that balance. Is there a move out there this offseason or soon that would actually make the team a lot better at maybe a higher cap hit than Granlund would in the short term? But listen, there's a lot of questions raised from these names, from even more names. We're seeing names move left and right in the NHL. Chris Kreider just got moved to the Anaheim Ducks as we're recording this, or it looks like it's going to happen. So you never know what's going to be the next domino to fall. But what do you think? Let us know what you think about Granlund and Tuch down below, because that'll do it for this episode of Wild Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for tuning in every single day. I'm Josh Goss, my co-host, Kirk Day. We'll catch you in the next one.